For the past few weeks, I've been noticing this optic getting a ton of attention online. And so I wanted to make a quick review on it to see if it's actually something that you guys should consider when you're thinking about replacing something like a cheaper red dot, or maybe even you've gotten tired of your Eotech and are looking for something a little bit smaller and more compact. The optic I'm talking about is the Holosun AEMS Pro X2. So to start off, we're just gonna go over some very quick tech specs on it to give you guys just a base understanding of kind of what you're getting when you pay for this optic. And then we'll go over kind of my review of it, my take on it, because this is an optic that I've been running for the past 3 weeks on this gun. So one of the first things that you'll notice on this optic that's pretty cool is you have these little solar panel things right here. Basically, this serves for a couple purposes. The first is that it actually has a reserve battery life on it. So if you go through the 50,000 hours that they claim you get from the battery that this takes, there's a reserve in here that you get from the solar as you're running it in the sun. Battery life is a weird subject. Not all batteries are made the same or stay the same. If you have batteries that you bought years ago and they've just been sitting in the package, that's not going to perform as well as a battery that you bought this month at the grocery store. Another thing with batteries is that their life is kind of dependent on how you use it. And as we'll talk about this optic a little bit, it has some features that I would anticipate drain the battery more than regular usage. Some of you might run your optic on a very low light setting, so you're barely seeing the reticle. Others might run it very bright and want to have a very big bright reticle as they're placing it on their target. So whether or not you actually get the 50,000 hours, I think is kind of up in the air, but that's what they advertise on the website. The other thing that this little solar panel thing does is it picks up how much light is in the area that you're currently in, and if you have the optic on auto mode, it will auto adjust the brightness of the reticle. If you're out in the sun and it's really bright, it's going to crank that brightness up so you can see it. If it's light outside and it's not picking up anything, it's going to keep it nice and dark so it still looks crisp, not so bright that it's totally blooming out and you can't even really make out what the reticle is. I've actually been really impressed with that. There's been a couple nights I've taken this out, not to shoot, but just to test it. It's been really cool. I'll be downstairs, in the light, dry firing in my basement, and it'll be an acceptable level of brightness, and then I'll literally take it outside, just to walk around with it, go feed my dog. I'll go and I'll look in it and it'll be, again, almost the perfect level of brightness. So pretty impressed with the auto settings on this, but I do imagine that having that auto setting on is gonna drain your battery a little bit. The lenses on this do have a multi-coating, something in a low light or even a brighter light scenario, you should be seeing a relatively crisp picture through this optic. The housing of the optic itself is made out of titanium, so it's strong, it's light. I don't have the exact weight for this reticle, but I do know that it is lighter than an Eotech. Another thing worth mentioning here is the window size. Compared to like a Vortex Crossfire or even an Aimpoint T2, I think that the window size here is very generous and nice. I personally just really like it. One of the questions I got the most when I first initially posted that I was shooting this was, is this a holographic optic? And the answer is no, it's not. For those of you who might not know the difference, a holographic optic basically uses a laser and mirrors to put that reticle where you can see it. Whereas something like this, or red dot optics, use an LED light to basically project the reticle for you. The main difference for me is noticeable when you're using magnifiers. If you're using a magnifier with a red dot, sometimes it can make the red dot look larger. It can kind of bloom it out and make it not look as clear. Whereas when you're using a holographic optic, it actually keeps that very, very crisp and clean. One of the other benefits to a holographic optic is a lot of times they allow you to keep everything a little bit more precise in the reticle itself. Whereas with a LED, a lot of times you're limited to the MOA that you can be picking for the size of your reticle. This optic comes in around $500. If you have the green version, I think it's like $5 over that. And if you have the red dot version, I think it comes in at like $475. So about $500 average. I will say one of the things I do really like about this is the multiple reticle selection on it. I like having the option to go from just a normal single dot to kind of the more classic Eotech reticle. especially when we're doing more like up close shooting. Think situations like home defense, CQB. Having that extra circle on the outside really helps you with your holdover and gives you something very specific to put onto the target to hold for your holdover, which I do enjoy. I've never been a fan of that reticle. This is the first time since my military service I really ever used it, but I actually am really enjoying it right now. Shout out to Shooters Global. They just sent me this freaking cool shot timer. Check it out, this thing's freaking cool. I'm gonna make a video on it by itself just because I do think it's a pretty unique product. So shout out Shooters Global, thank you for that. Here we go, on the timer. Trigger freeze. You ever seen this course of fire? So the changing between reticles is super easy. You literally just hold it up so you can see it. And then if you hold down the minus button, so if you were to lower the intensity of your reticle, if you just hold it down, I think it's 3 to 5 seconds, you'll notice it starts changing. And then if you just keep it held down, it'll cycle through all of the different reticle options that you have. Which for this particular model, there is 3 reticle options. You have your single 2 MOA dot, you have your dot with the circle around it, which I think is 20 MOA, and then you can also just do the circle with no dot in the center of it. So like I said, I'm gonna give you guys some of my thoughts on this optic after I've used it now for 3 weeks during my training. First of all, I think the reticle is very crisp and clear. One of the most crisp and clear I've seen. I can't remember what the optic is called. It's the Vortex UHY something. I think it's like their essentially competitor with the Eotech. I had it long ago and I freaking hated that thing because the reticle never felt like it was clear. This on the other hand, I really have enjoyed it so far, and I think the reticle is awesome in it. Obviously I haven't really had it long enough to be able to tell you the battery life on it and if I like the battery life or not. I have had the same battery in it for the 3 weeks that I've been using it. That being said, I think the auto mode is very practical. I like the idea of not having to think about adjusting the brightness of my reticle and the optic kind of just doing it for me. There has been times where it's not perfect, but I'm always like 1 or 2 clicks away. So I like that it does that for me. One thing I forgot to mention that it does have is the shake awake. So if the gun is on the ground or not moving for 10 minutes, it will turn off. And then when it senses motion, it will turn back on again to the original setting you had it before, which is pretty cool. In terms of durability, I know there's a ton of gun tubers out there who are gonna take this thing and beat it up and drop it and smash it and do all this thing to see if it works. Well, I'm freaking broke. But when I get something nice like this, I wanna keep it nice. And so I'm not gonna give you guys a durability test, but maybe down the road, if something bad happens to it and I'm able to test, you know, how durable it is, then we can do that. Another thing I really like about this is the simplicity of the controls. I'm not really the biggest fan of like the turn knobs. It's a me thing. It's not a problem with turn knobs. They're totally fine. They function great, but I like these buttons. I like how big they are. I like their placement. Yeah, I'm a buttons guy. I'm not a turn knob guy. One of the claims on Holosun's website is that this optic and the way it's set up reduces 50% parallax. Now, I don't know if that's compared to previous models or just a general statement, but I will say that while moving and shooting, I do think that the parallax is quite forgiving. Not to mention, like I said, I think this eye box is a very nice size. It's not so thick that when I'm looking in it, the housing gets in the way, and it's wide enough that I have a very clear sight picture. With the price point being that, you know, average of about $500, I think it is pretty fairly priced, especially when you're comparing it to maybe some more expensive stuff on the market. I think Eotech is kind of like a industry standard for something like this. The cheapest you're gonna find an Eotech brand new is like 600 bucks. And if you're trying to get the nicest version, you're gonna be paying upwards of like $800. If you have the ability to pay that much and you really like the Eotech, then I would definitely recommend it. If you're looking for something smaller, lighter, but also something that's durable and gonna last you a long time, I think this is a pretty good option. So again, for anybody who's wanting a duty capable optic that's, you know, lighter and cheaper than an Eotech, but probably a little bit more durable and gonna last you longer than some of the cheaper end red dots, I think this is a good option for you. And I'm sure as a little bit of time passes, you're gonna be able to find these at a little bit of a cheaper price online than what they're currently sitting at. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Holosun, for sending me this optic. I probably should have mentioned that at the beginning. I don't have any contracts with them. They're not paying me to say this stuff. They're not forcing me to say good things about the optic, but I have really enjoyed it since I've used it. I did get it for free, and I'm gonna run this for a while. If you guys like what you saw in this video, go ahead, hit the subscribe button. It really helps me grow. I'm trying to hit 20,000 subscribers by the end of the year. It's kind of a lofty goal, but I think I can achieve it. If you guys have had any negative experiences with the Holosun AEMS, put them in the comments below. I wanna hear them and maybe see if there's like a consistent problem that people have with it. But so far, I haven't really seen too much online. I'll see you guys later. Bye.